Hey!
I'll call you back.
What the hell are you doing?
What the fuck are you doing?
What am I doing? What are you doing?
What the fuck? I'm trying to walk here.
You walk? You're talking on a cell phone?
You almost fucking killed me, you douchebag.
You come right in front of me. You're talking on a cell phone?
What, there's a logins talking on a cell phone? You
No, you
tool?
can't. Not while you're wheeling around and
shouldn't
you
be
almost hit my
fucking
car.
driving it. I'm just trying to get to my car. You
Learn how to
fucking
drive that thing.
Piss off, you douchebag, you
asshole.
fucking pussy.
So here we are, Jeffrey.
Yes.
Once again,
I'm
it's you
Jeff
and me,
Garlin.
babe. I'm Susie Essman, and this is the history of Curb Your Enthusiasm, and we are about to start season 4.
Right, and
Which I
Susie's
believe-
in studio in New York.
I'm in studio in New York.
I'm in my office at home. I usually close the door, but my dog will be weirded out, so maybe she'll show up from my kitchen.
We have to
all right.
have dog access. That's very important.
Oh, it is. If they can't
now-
see where you are.
So season 4, I believe, was 2004, around
Yeah.
there that we shot this. And this is the producer's season. And we start out.
And by
it's
the
called-
way, if I may, Susie,
Yeah.
when I started watching this episode, it wasn't until I saw Mel Brooks that I realized it was the producer's season.
Oh,
that's
really?
That's how long since I've seen this stuff.
I know, it's been a long time.
yeah.
And this episode is called Mel's Offer.
Yep.
And we start off with Cheryl and Larry. They're in an Italian restaurant, and the waiter is giving them unintelligible specials, which I thought was hilarious.
If you like, very good rigatoni alla matriciana con il guanciale da matrice che ha fatto venire mia madre posta dall'Italia, una cosa fatta col guanciale, una cosa da leccarsi i baffi.
What?
Look at the
Because of what?
mustache. Eh?
What?
What's the sauce with the fish?
What? What fish?
Well, by the way, if you slowed that guy down, he was just doing either he knew Italian or it was gibberish, because Larry's making a joke on something. Every once in a while, we do a subtle, broad joke, because what it usually is the guy just talks fast with a French accent or Italian accent, and you have no idea what they're saying. But
Right.
if you slow him down, it would make sense. This guy, no.
Nothing.
All
We
right.
understood nothing.
Yeah.
And we find, and then finally Larry's like, I'll have the first thing. And Cheryl's like, I'll have the second thing. And then we find out from Cheryl that their 10-year anniversary is coming up. And Cheryl would like to renew the vows and have a real ceremony. I have to say, my 15-year anniversary is coming up. I have zero interest in renewing my vows and having a real ceremony.
And by the way,
zero interest.
do you want it? Would you want to even have a party?
No.
Exactly.
No.
Exactly. You know, what's better? I used to gig on New Year's. I don't even do that anymore.
Well, we
Home-
always had that you know, we, in the old days, we didn't have to worry about having dates because we were always busy on Saturday night, always busy on New Year's Eve. Oh, you know, it wasn't that
Right.
kind of thing.
And we didn't have children.
Right.
And so, yeah, you could do anything. So I worked every New Year's for probably
Me too, for years. It was a good
25
payday.
years. Great payday. Always.
Great payday.
Even for a young comic, it was a better payday.
And at the clubs that you would work, let's say New Year's Eve was a Friday. The Thursday night before, you get, $20 a set. New Year's Eve, you get maybe $300. So it was like a big, at the same
it was
exact
a big
club.
deal.
Yeah, it was
And
a big deal.
The only thing that sucked being on stage always was the countdown.
Yeah, well,
You
I
know?
always tried to avoid that. But that was like, thinking about that was like in the old days, you didn't have to think about your social life ever. You'd walk
No.
into a club, you knew everybody from the waiters
Hold
and
on.
waitresses to
I
the
was
doormen to the
dating-
comics.
From the age of 20 up until I met my wife, no
Marla.
exaggeration, I was dating my stand-up career.
Yes. Yes.
Dating my stand-up career. That's all that mattered.
And it was
I met
great.
girls. It was great. It was great. There was nothing. I want to recapture
And it was
that moment.
it was our cheers. Like you'd walk into a
Yeah.
club and you knew
everybody.
everyone and you would
But
just
also that time, there was a different vibe amongst comedians. We were almost a organism. And now, and this is the world. It's so.
But there was not that many of
splintered.
us also, Jeff. There's a lot more now, I think. A lot more
Oh,
comics.
my God, a zillion more. But
Yeah.
you still, I don't ever get we're going to the diner down the block. You know what I mean?
That was the most fun.
Every night.
That was the most fun.
That's how I helped gain a lot of weight.
Yeah. We'd run around. we'd run around doing 5, 6, 7 sets a night, and then we'd go to the diner and you'd go over your stuff.
Right.
You'd say, I did this worked, this didn't work.
By the way,
Somebody would say, try that,
I found that the max helpful is 5. 6 is not helpful. 7 is a complete loss.
What,
you don't
sets?
know what 7,
Oh,
yeah,
God,
because you
7
don't
is
remember
insane.
what you said, you didn't say.
And I have done this where I repeat myself.
Oh, by the way, that's why I'm saying I did the same thing,
So Cheryl wants to renew the vows, and Larry gives in. He says, okay, I'll give in. And Larry says, my gift for our 10-year anniversary has already been agreed upon, and Cheryl doesn't know what he's talking about. And then we have the flashback, which I love these. I love the flashbacks.
Well, the flashbacks.
Cheryl's hair.
Hold on, though. This one felt real. Do you know what I mean? This one, because some of the others, especially the ice cream one and Bald Larry as a kid joke, per se. But this one, they look like they looked. I mean, I don't know if Cheryl had that kind of hair.
That big
but
Tallahassee hair.
Yeah, but it looked real.
Yeah,
and then
Larry
looked
was just
like
brown.
he used to. Yeah, but he was and the glasses that he wore, he looked like you went in a time machine.
And I knew him then, so that's what
so
he looked
did I.
like.
That's what I'm saying.
Except he had more, in those days, in the 80s, he had brown hair, but it was bigger. It was more bozo-y.
And then when he was on Fridays, it was really big.
Yeah, it was very bozo-y.
Yeah.
So they're about to get married, and Cheryl, she just goes through this whole thing. She wants to be Cheryl David. It's very odd. She wants to be Cheryl David. Larry's like,
by
why?
the way, the great line that Larry says is, I don't even want to be a David.
Right. I don't
Why
even
would
want to
you
be a
want to
David?
be a David?
But she does, because it's exotic to her. And she says to him, are you reluctant because you're worried about not being able to have sex with someone else? Now, that is a major thing when you're making a commitment to get married. You're basically saying, I am never going to have sex with anyone else for the rest of my life. That's bizarre to make that commitment.
Well, by the way,
I've
all
made
this
it,
stuff,
but it's
hold on.
bizarre.
This stuff was invented 9 million years ago. You know what I mean? It wasn't invented. It's not a modern day thing. That's why a lot of couples, partners, what have you, don't get married. I do believe, like gay marriage and all that stuff. Hey, I love that the civil right is there, but I always wonder. Someone did this joke.
Why do you want to be us? Why do you want to be like us?
Why do you want us? Why do you want to be married? We don't want to be married. Why would you? But I do get the civil rights of it all.
Oh, of course. They should have the right to do whatever they
all
want.
Right, so I had lunch the other day. I had lunch the other day with a beautiful French woman, 79 years old. Mm-hmm. Gorgeous. She's never had any work done. Her hair is brown and beautiful. I mean, this woman is as gorgeous. She was married. Her name's Francois. She was married to Douglas Kirkland, who was a great photographer. He has a new book coming out of his pictures of Brigitte Bardot. He did a lot of Monroe, too. Anyhow, she starts telling me about their relationship, and she said, we split up a couple times. And she knew he was with other women, and she wasn't mad about that. She was mad about that he was sharing what was on his mind, his work.
Emotional
well,
cheating.
that's beyond emotional. That's specific
Intimacy,
emotional. Intimacy. And so, but she also said to me, because I'm big on, what's the word called when you don't fool around?
Monogamy?
Well, yeah, I enjoy, by the way, in this day and age, I love monogamy. Anyhow.
Faithfulness?
Faithfulness, all that stuff. I'm about that. But it seems to me, and I don't ghost them. I hate ghosting. But I just say thank you. But it's funny how all these women from my past, whenever I have a fight with Sari, whenever Sari leaves town, I don't know if they have a red light that goes in their house, but they all contact me.
Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah, no, and by the way, that's not an exaggeration. When Sari's around, I never hear from any of them.
Well,
I don't know how they know.
I got married for the first time at, how old was I? 48. So I had no problem committing to monogamy. I had sown wild oats, by that point.
By the way, thanks to you, I've sown wild oats, which you recommended to me when I split with my wife. Sow your oats. You've never
you know why,
sown
Jeff? Because you got married young. You didn't have a lot of experience before you met Marla. And I thought it was important before you met the next person for you to go out there and, have some fun.
Experience, yes. I had a bit before I started comedy. Like I said, though, comedy was my girlfriend.
Yeah, you didn't have
until
a whole
I
lot
met my
before
wife.
you met your wife.
No.
I thought now is your time.
Will you say
Sow
it?
your oats.
Okay.
Sow your oats.
Okay.
All right. So apparently, Cheryl tells in the flashback. Cheryl tells Larry. Not apparently. She tells Larry.
Okay. How about if we get married now, like right now, for our 10-year anniversary, you can have sex with someone else.
What?
If that's your hold-up here, then let's just do that.
Come on. What do you get? You're not going to let me do that. What are you saying that for?
I will. Just sex one time. It's not a big deal.
On our 10-year anniversary, you could have sex with someone else one time. Mm-hmm. Then we're back to the present. And Cheryl says, I can't believe you remember that. And Larry's like, I'm joking around. And Cheryl's like, no. Cheryl insists that he calls her on that because I think Cheryl does not believe he could find somebody to have sex with one time.
Hold on a second here. Hold on a second there. It was only when she said, look, he would have loved to say, and what he wanted on the inside was, oh, you can do that. Okay, that's great. Instead, he has to fake it. No, I wouldn't want to. But the minute she tells him he can't, that good luck to him is the...
That he can. The minute she tells him he can. Yeah.
No. The minute she tells him he can't, though, is good luck. He won't find anybody.
Yeah.
That's when he's made his mind up. This is going to happen. It's a challenge.
She says, I quote, she says,
If you think you can have sex with somebody else, then you should do that.
What does that mean?
Hey, lady. I'm Larry David, and my wife said I could have sex with somebody tonight.
if you think you could have sex with someone else, then you should do it. Clearly, she doesn't think he could. And Larry's insulted. I understand that. And Cheryl doesn't think she's capable. And Larry says, it's okay with you? No crying afterwards? And she's like, you have until our anniversary. Good luck. Then they're on their way to the karaoke, and Jeff's like, Larry's like, I hope Jeff is going to be at the karaoke party because he can't wait to tell you. He can't wait to tell you that he has permission to fuck somebody else.
And then what does it open up right away? I love the economy of that. The cut
to Mel singing Just in Time.
Cut to Mel Just in Time, and then a cut to Larry and I having that conversation.
Correct.
And of course, I say
it's a married man's dream. You said it's a married man's dream, and you think it's great. And then you say who? Well, that becomes the issue, doesn't it? The who.
Okay, so before we get to what happens next, I want to say two things. Number one, watching Mel in this, just watching Mel in general, Mel is magic.
Yes.
Mel warms my heart when I see him. You know, one time I went to the doctor's to get my flu shot, and I hear this voice from inside the doctor, Jeff. It was Mel calling me to be, so in the room we got our flu shots together. So as a kid watching Young Frankenstein or History of the World, whatever have you, silent movie, in my wildest imagination, I'll be getting a flu shot with him.
Well, you know, I mean, one of the nice things in one's career is when you get to meet your idols. Sometimes you're disappointed. Mel was absolutely my comedic idol. In 1960, I was 5 years old, and my parents got the 2,000-Year-Old Man album, and I would listen to it over and over. And what's interesting to me is that there were things I couldn't have possibly understood that were.
There was a lot of subtleties,
but I got the rhythm of it. The rhythm, I knew it was funny because of the rhythm of it and the timing of it.
The comedy is rhythms and timing.
So at 5 years old, I had that rhythm in my head. And I would stand up on the kitchen table. I would do the whole album for the family, both Mel and Carl. I do both parts. I memorized the whole thing. And then some years later, sometimes I'd be on stage doing stand-up, and I would hear that rhythm in my head. Like somehow I would say something, I'd be like, oh my God, that was a Mel rhythm. It was so ingrained in me. So he was my first comedic influence. And to meet him and to work with him was just absolutely one of the great thrills of my life. And he did not disappoint. Did not disappoint.
He was fun. He was great.
Menschy, wonderful,
and
warm.
Willing to talk about anything, from his past. No, a delight. That's why. So I'm saying when I'm watching him sing, I'm like, Mel is magic.
He is.
All right.
So we introduce Mel, and then you and Larry are talking about the married man's dream.
The line that I wrote down that I said to him was, "Damn it, man, do it."
Damn it, man, do it.
And then he goes over to talk to that.
But Larry does say, this is the thing I'm worst at in the world, is asking a woman. And we know that he is. And Jeff points to a very attractive.
He does what he would say.
And then Jeff, you point to a very attractive woman. You say, just go do it, make a move.
Yeah.
And Larry goes and talks to this attractive woman, the most ridiculous conversation.
There's nothing to do at night. What can you do at night? Bowling, movies. It's like a third thing to do after bowling and the movies. I don't know if you bowl or not. I don't go that often. But it's fun. It's fun. You can't find a ball. That's the problem. I don't know. Maybe you own a bowling ball. I don't own a bowling ball. My whole life, every time I'm in a bowling alley, sticking my fingers in all these holes, picking up the balls. You got to get your own ball. I don't bowl enough, I think, to get my own ball. It takes up a lot of space in the house. You keep looking at it in the closet going, what am I doing with a bowling ball? I don't even bowl.
I mean, if I was that woman, I would have said, you're the most boring human being in the world.
She played it note perfect.
She was terrific.
She said a million words by not saying any words.
Right.
And you know what's funny? This episode, he talks more than usual. He does talk a lot. As you know, outside of the show, I'm a big talker. So as I'm watching him talk through this episode, it started reminding me of Sari and I. So I told her that. I said, Sari, I was watching a scene on Curb, and I thought of you. And she was prepared.
And Sari, so everybody knows, is your girlfriend.
Yes. And I told her, I said, I'm watching Larry talk, and all I thought to myself was, poor Sari. poor Sari, that she has to deal with this. Well, you, the listener who've been listening to this, yes, I interrupt because it's a thought about the show.
He goes off on a whole rant about bowling balls, and it's just a ridiculous rant. It's a complete disaster.
By the way, I had an end to the French thing. I realized it wasn't what she missed. And I don't remember the topic, but at the end, when she left, she grabbed my face. She said, life is too short to worry about that. In other words, she's
being
French.
Jealous and being...
No. That I should be with all those women because she's French and you should.
Yeah, they're French. Okay, she's obviously not... She's not Jewish, Jeff.
I don't know if she is. I don't think she is.
No. She's not a Jewish woman. Jewish women don't let their husbands cheat.
They don't let their husbands even think about cheating.
That's right.
They
don't let their husbands do very much.
On this show, we'll do that episode, man. So many people love the scene when I take you to the airport and I'm singing and I'm bouncing and I'm happy. I'm not telling you I'm doing anything. Thank God you're gone. And you look at me and you say, put it back in. I'm too happy. What the hell's going on? And that is a Jewish woman. That was
season 9 or 10. That was a long time ago.
Yeah. So, but nonetheless, people love that.
We'll get to it.
Yes.
Okay, and then the MC calls Larry up, and Larry goes up and he does his Al Jolson Swanee.
Yeah.
For the karaoke.
And by the way, he is good at that.
Oh, he's terrific.
He's really good at singing. He really is.
But he's also such a good mimic, as you and I know. He's a terrific mimic, whether it's James Mason or,
what's his name doing the young Lincoln? I'll think, not young Lincoln,
Raymond
Lincoln.
Massey.
Raymond Massey.
Mary, a house divided?
A house divided. Well, how many times do I ask him to do it? And then he finally did it in the show.
Yes.
And I laugh at that one.
Don't say that, Jeff.
What's
You're giving something away.
Hold on. I don't think his Raymond Massey is part of the storyline whenever he did it.
Oh, no. His Raymond Massey is not.
Okay, so there you go. What am I giving away?
So, and then we cut to you and Larry.
Wait, hold on. Are you talking about Larry? So The last line that he says before he walks away from the woman is the funniest line in the scene, which is, "I'm around town."
Yes, right.
Like she can find him. In case you think, oh, I made a mistake. I'm around town. I love I'm around town. That's too funny.
And let's say she did want to find him. I'm around town.
Yeah.
You know, what does that
Well,
mean?
no,
It's
it was a
big
throwaway.
town.
but that's why it was so funny. I'm around town. Oh boy.
So we cut to you and Larry are in a meeting with Mel Brooks.
No.
You're going
No.
into the meeting with Mel Brooks.
No. We are in the car.
Yes, you're in the car.
At Mel's building. Right, and the wheelchair.
And the guy in the wheelchair is on the cell phone, and Larry almost runs him down, and they get into an argument. And Steve Rash very quickly, who was our editor, it was in the background as an extra. Been the editor, a brilliant editor, because so much of the show is done in the editing.
The hour.
He's
all
been
the way
since
through.
the very beginning. Still,
by the way,
season 12.
Because I always say with Larry, you know, you and Cheryl, most of it, but I always say Larry, myself, and who is the other person? One other person have been there since the actual beginning, and I can't remember.
Cheryl.
Yes, but she had seasons that she wasn't on.
Oh, Bob Whitey?
No, because the past few seasons. Laura Fairchild.
Yeah.
Or Laura Stryker.
Stryker.
Yeah. So it's Laura, who's Larry. She's a
Steve
producer.
Rash as well.
Steve Rash as well. So there's 4 of us who've been on every
and because the show is improvised, so much is done in editing. So much of the show is created.
I think Steve's a master.
Yeah, he is.
I remember, this is just coming to me now, when we were in these weird offices where HBO it was in Century City. HBO had this theater where they would screen their stuff, and there were offices on that level, no windows. So I remember the only thing that had been like this prior to us doing this was Christopher Guest movies. And
I mean improvised like that? Yeah.
Yeah, he had a strong script, but he also had great improvisers in all the roles. And so Did he have dialogue written in his scripts or no, Christopher Guest? Oh, sure.
You did?
Sure,
okay.
Yeah. And
because we don't.
I know, but
I mean, I know you know, I'm telling the audience.
His was more than an outline. Like we get an outline and the scenes
he had
written,
more,
but we don't have. So he had more. But that being said, I called him and I said, hey, we're about to do this show. He doesn't know who I am at this point. We're about to do this show. Do you have any advice for our editor and editing? He said, no.
Okay.
He was very succinct. He went, no. And then I go, well, thank you very much. And it was over. It was over. But that's what I got. No. Since then, I've gotten to know him, and he is eccentric, but none. Do you know, one time I thought, okay, and I know we're interrupting ourselves because you're doing it a lot. The Comedy Festival, HBO's Comedy Arts Festival in Aspen. In Aspen. So I think Marla's coming down the hallway, I'm sure, because I'm expecting her at that second. So I'm in the hallway, you know, halfway through the door, dancing in my underwear. That's it, just my underwear. Christopher Guest walks by. He looks at me and he goes, hi, Jeff, and keeps walking.
Nonplussed.
Well, just like the no. He's very succinct, that man.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
You know, you mentioned the Comedy Arts Festival. The first trip, it was like 20 years ago when I first met my husband, Jimmy. The first trip I took with him was I brought him to Aspen to the festival. We were doing some kind of panel, some curb panel or something.
With David Steinberg.
Yeah.
And I remember Diane Keaton was right after us. And it was a fun, and Monty Python were being feted. Right. Is that the right word?
So, we're at the, you're at the bar at these festivals and you know everybody at the bar, it's just everybody, every comic. And Chris Rock was standing there and I introduced Jimmy to Chris Rock. And I said, Chris, this is my, I've known Chris for so many, I said, Chris, this is my boyfriend, Jimmy. And Jimmy says, I'm sorry, what was your name? Mark? And then I thought, oh, I love this guy. I got to keep him.
But by the way, he is the least pretentious man I've ever met in my life.
Didn't know who anybody was, didn't care.
But by the way, a lot of people in that situation would try to cover it up and just not use his name or try and make something, maneuver it.
He's guileless, my husband. He's guileless.
He just says, I'm sorry.
What was your name, Mark? Okay, so the guy in the wheelchair on the cell phone, he and Larry have a fight because Larry almost runs him over and the guy's not paying attention and blah, blah. And then you walk into the building and Larry finds a wallet sitting in the hallway in the lobby. You go up to Mel's office and there is his assistant played by Rachel Harris.
Rachel Harris, a Groundlings person, one of Cheryl's friends.
Cheryl's best friend. And Rachel Harris, I forgot the name of her character, but she says...
Jizamina.
Yeah, she's Jizamina. She says the wallet belongs to Dennis, who does our computers. I don't know if she says at that moment that he's in a wheelchair, but then she says that Larry notices she's looking at him.
Larry said a guy he had a problem with the guy in the wheelchair. He had to stop. Shouldn't there be rules? And then he said, I found this wallet.
Yes,
and she said,
okay.
That's Dennis,
who's in the wheelchair.
Yeah.
Okay. So then Rachel is looking at baby names and she establishes that she and her partner are adopting a baby. And what do I have here? My partner is my rival. I think Larry said that.
No, he says, look at partners. I'm married. When you're married, your wife is, like he's talking about, I have a rival. I don't have a partner. I have a rival. Yeah. Which, by the way, so true.
So true. Well, I don't know. I don't feel that way. But it's established that they're adopting a Chinese boy, which I felt was weird because there aren't Chinese boys at that time to be adopted. They were all Chinese girls that were being adopted. And so Larry starts going through Chinese names.
Wang isn't a bad first name. Wang. Then you got the whole Ang family. Fang, Bang, Tang. Tang is not actually a bad name because it's like China, but it's not China. It's a juice. Is what it is. Tang. Is that so bad? Naming a kid after a juice? Maybe that's not so bad. But it has Chinese overtones. Tang. But yet there's
Tang.
You got a little jolt with it.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Okay.
Don't think that would go over too well with the school kids.
That's going to kind of be the least of his problems, no?
I'll be right with you.
Wang, the whole Ang family, Tang.
It started with Tang. No, Tang was the first one.
Wang was the first one, and then it went to Tang.
Tang, which was, for those of you listening.
Naming a kid after a juice.
Do they still make Tang?
I don't know. Ask the astronauts.
Tang was supposedly the astronauts used it. It was a powdered orange drink that you put in the water, and it wasn't great.
It was
Kool-Aid
orangey.
was great.
It was
Kool-Aid
orangey.
was great.
And then Larry goes off on a whole riff, naming the kid after a juice. And Rachel says, I don't think that'll go over with the school kids. And Larry says, least of his problems. No, it's so incendiary. It's so incendiary. And then Larry goes to the bathroom. And as he's walking into the bathroom, Mel opens the bathroom door and hits Larry in the head. And it's a big gash and he's bleeding. Next, Jeff and Larry go to the doctor.
Hold on one second here. I have written down Ben Vereen. Did I
You
or
said
Larry?
something about Ben Vereen in the name. You did.
Really?
That's your name.
That's my name.
Ben
Why don't you
Vereen.
call it Ben Vereen?
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
It's something that I've repeated many times.
Many times.
Long before he was hit by a van. He was on 10 Speed and Brown Shoes, a show with Jeff Goldblum. That was the co-star. Ben Vereen,
yeah?
Jeff Goldblum network show. Okay, keep going.
So you're at the doctor. Larry doesn't want to sign in. He doesn't like having his name on lists. It's just sign in. He makes a McGilla about it. And then
but hold on, though. I hate that too. A lot of times
it's a reasonable thing.
I write a fake name almost every time. They don't care. They don't notice.
And also, why does everybody have to see your name?
Well, by the way, I always read the names.
Yeah, exactly.
I always do.
It's interesting.
Because I think a friend of mine might be there, and that's happened.
Well, I don't read it because I think somebody I know might be there. I read it more like I'm just interested. It's like, who was here today?
Yeah.
What are the names? What is this? Yeah. What is this world that I'm walking into? Then Larry's waiting in the exam room, and he calls you on the phone, not the cell phone, but the phone that's sitting on the counter in the examination room.
Dude, what are you doing?
What?
What are you calling me on the doctor's phone for?
I'm bored to death in here.
Don't use the doctor's phone. That's not right.
What? What's the big deal?
They don't like it.
Well, I just thought I'd give you a call, see what's up, how you doing. What are you reading?
Men's Fitness.
Men's Fitness?
Yeah, about America's fattest cities.
Oh, you know what? There's a doctor.
All right, I'll talk to you later.
I will, I'll talk to you later. How's Jeff?
I'm not supposed to use that phone.
Sorry. It was a local call.
You're not supposed to use the phone. It doesn't matter whether it was a local or a long-distance call. We just don't want people using that phone, okay?
Fine. What's the big deal, though?
It's no big deal.
If I may ask, what's the problem?
There is no problem. We just don't want people using that phone.
And you say you don't use the doctor's phone because I
Hold
guess
on,
the number
hold
came
on.
up.
It comes up in conversation, but you see me when my phone rings reading Men's Fitness. And
Yes.
I am very heavy. Not the heaviest I ever was, but I'm a good...
Your face is so cherubic in these,
Cherubic, it
these
is.
episodes.
It's like a baby.
You're
Yeah.
just like a
So
little baby face.
I'm easily 290, 285 at that point. And reading Men's Fitness,
Yeah,
which in itself... Okay, keep going.
And then in walks the doctor, who is the great Philip Baker Hall, who is such
by
a
the way-
brilliant character actor.
And by the way, he was on
no longer
Seinfeld.
with us. Yeah.
he was on Seinfeld in almost every Paul Thomas Anderson movie.
Yes.
Yeah, he was a
He's a
favorite.
brilliant actor.
Well, by the way, he's worked so much. You know, the other night, I don't remember what I was watching. It might have been last week. I was watching a reasonably old movie, something. It was 80s, I believe. Today that's a classic old thing. Anyhow, it was a young Philip Baker Hall in a small part. And I was like, holy crap, that's Philip. So he's been working a long time. And he was, and by the way, I want to say
Larry loves him.
Yeah, well, go the phone and they get in an argument. What's the big deal?
Yeah.
Don't
You're
use
not
the
supposed
phone.
to use that phone. And Larry's stresses that it was a local call.
Yeah.
So what difference does it make?
They don't stop, but here's what I want to say. Philip Baker Hall at no point even smirked.
No.
Every time he said anything, Larry exploded with laughter. I'm talking every time he said, don't use the phone, you shouldn't use the phone, Larry exploded.
And he said things that were so funny, like the history of why you can't use this phone is so complex. Things like that.
Well, by the way, again, Larry, and when I say laughed, I mean, he laughed hard and he could barely, that scene should have taken 40 minutes to shoot. And I know it took an hour easy with his laughing.
Welcome to my world.
Yeah.
Larry, the reason seems capricious. And he doesn't break. He's totally serious. The history is so complex. Blah, blah, blah. And then he mentions that he has tickets for the producers. And he's going to, because Larry says Mel Brooks banged the door into his head. And he talks about having, the doctor has tickets for the producers. And he's going to clean it up in a few minutes and put some stitches on, et cetera, et cetera. And they still carry on more after that about the rule not making sense.
And then he says it'll be a little prick when he does the stitches. Yeah. And Larry says, oh, I know there's
definitely a prick involved.
And then he says,
a prick involved.
And I thought to myself, why he's doing this, and this is Larry's character, who, if you are going to move forward with the doctor to do a minimal procedure, a big procedure, wouldn't you kind of want him to like you?
Especially if he's stitching up your head?
Yes. So,
well, not Larry.
No.
And then, as the doctor is stitching him up, the doctor drools on Larry, which is really gross. Really gross.
It is. I'm surprised he did that. That's not really drooling, poop, all that stuff. He really doesn't like gross stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm surprised. Yeah.
So then he's with you and you're saying, you have any ideas for the anniversary present? And Larry's like, I've got 3 months, my fat friend. And he goes off on a whole rick with Fetsu.
No, a couple things you have to know. First off, he said what I mind because he's calling me my fat friend.
Right.
And I used to say to you all the time, go nuts, rip me, call me as a fat fuck, call me whatever you want.
And I did.
I know, but you had called me in previous scenes fat fuck, and you still felt bad doing it. And I'm like, come on, do it. So I said to him, do it. And do you know who he was doing? Do you know who that was? Who he was imitating?
It was Carson, wasn't it?
No. This is where Carson got it from. Jackie Gleason.
Oh, Jackie Gleason. Yeah.
And the things he was saying, Jackie Gleason, that voice comes from.
Yeah. And again, did a great impression.
Yeah.
And then
it was really funny.
The wheelchair guy, you run into him, and Larry says, did you get your wallet? And he says, yeah, Joanne, who was the Rachel Harris, that was her name, Joanne. Joanne found it. I gave her $100. The two of you go back to Mel's office, and he says to Joanne, Rachel Harris, I ran into Dennis. He gave you $100.
I walk in and just go to the seat. I'm not going to be involved.
Well, that's you. He has to confront her. I hear that he gave you $100. And then Joanne's partner comes in.
Hey, what's going on?
This is the guy that I told you about.
Oh, you got a problem with our lifestyle? That we want to adopt a baby?
No, not at all.
Yeah, you need a good fucking ass kicking. That's what you need. You want to name our baby Tang? You think it's good to name a kid after a breakfast drink? We don't think that's a good name. Do you understand that?
I understand.
And she roughs LD up. She just beats the crap out of him in a way. She just threatens him. And I hear you were complaining about, about us having a baby and blah, 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 blah. And you could see he's really scared of her.
But she really was great because here's the point.
She didn't hold back.
Hold on. You believed he was scared of her.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't
I was scared of her.
Yeah, she was really great. Okay.
So now we enter Mel's office, and sitting there is Mel Brooks and Paul Mazursky and Rudy DeLuca. Now let's tell people who these guys are because they might not know. I mean, most people should. So Rudy DeLuca was a great writer.
Yes, he was a comedy writer.
He wrote all of Mel's movies with him.
Co-wrote
with him.
And he was in all of them,
and he was in a lot of them. And he wrote a lot of stuff through the years, and also an actor, a character actor. And Paul Mazursky was an amazing director. Next Stop, Greenwich Village, Bob and Carol and Ted and Alice,
Down and Out in Beverly Hills.
Just a wonderful, wonderful
And by the
director.
way, may I also say, my mentor. He was my mentor. I had
a lovely man.
Right. The best. I had breakfast with him all the time amongst other people at the farmer's market at 3rd and Fairfax. And every day even when I spent time alone with him, he told me a story. The first shot of Bob, Carol, Ted, and Alice is from a crane down on all these people who were at a couple's, not retreat, but and sex went around, and I don't know what you would call it back then. And he's really nervous about shooting his first scene. So his DP says, Mel, come here. I need you to...
No, Paul, not Mel.
Paul.
Yeah.
Paul, I need you to see something. They get in the crane, they go up, and that's where the camera's going to be. And Paul goes, so what are we looking at? He goes, nothing. He goes, what do you mean? He goes, you were nervous. Just want to show you. I think you'll relax by looking over all of it from up here. And he was so warm. Well, not intentionally, my first movie I want someone to eat cheese with, first shot, because he's a great actor, Paul, and he's in a lot of episodes on our show.
Yeah.
Norm, yeah. And first scene was with him. My first movie I ever shot.
Did that relax you?
I told him, I can't. I said, I'm so nervous, I can't. He calmed me down.
Good.
But how about that, passing it on? I love that.
He died a few years ago. Is Rudy DeLuca still alive? I don't know. We could look that up. Mel is still alive and kicking.
I think is Mel 98 or so, 99?
Something way up there.
Way up there, yeah.
So now Mel asked Larry to play Max Bialystock in The Producers. In the New York version, when
Right.
Nathan Lane leaves, he wants Larry to go in and play Max Bialyshep. Or you got it or you ain't. He tells a story about Andreas, the guy who played Carmen Gia in the producer's movie.
When we made the movie of the producers, the guy that played Carmen Gia was this incredible, talented Greek actor. His name is Andreas Foutsinas. And Andreas used to say to me, or you got it or you ain't. I said, Andreas, you can't start a sentence with or. He said, never mind. Or you got it or you ain't. You got it, Larry.
You got it, Larry.
You got it, mister.
Mr. Brooks is right, my friend. You got it.
Or you got it or you ain't. And he tells him that Ben Stiller will be playing Leo Bloom. And he says, come to the show tonight. And Larry's like, is this candid camera? I keep thinking Alan Funt is going to walk in or something. He can't believe that he's being offered this part. And you guys leave. And Paul Mazursky.
And by
Norm
the way,
says,
I say to Mel, he's going to do it.
He's going to do it.
And I'm like, sure.
Well, you are, because you're, as a manager, you are his biggest fan. And you are, that's your job.
And I know this is a home run.
Exactly.
He's going to do it, which leads to Paul Mazursky, who we've seen getting angrier and angrier. And then what does Paul say?
Giant mistake. This is a giant mistake. And he says, you had zero Mustel, Nathan Lane, Jason Alexander, and Larry David?
Which is a worthy question, by the way.
Yeah. And then we are at the theater. It's seat M4 and M5. I thought that was hilarious that Mel threw that in, what seats they were.
You're right.
And Larry wants to take a painkiller because his head is hurting him, from the gash he got. And Cheryl's like, won't you get tired? Blah, blah. And then across the lobby, they see Ben Stiller and his wife, Christine Taylor.
First off, in the background, I see, and I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure, Marissa Winokur, which tells me...
I didn't notice that.
No, I'll tell you why she was probably there. She was probably at the theater because we didn't shoot inside that theater. We shot inside a different theater. Hairspray had to have been playing there with her.
Yeah,
she had an
Now,
LA
Marissa
run.
Winokur was in the show. I believe it was
won
season
Tony.
1.
Oh, yeah. She was the elevator
she
girl.
played
Speaking of signing
That's
in.
right. That was another sign-in.
And he wrestled her. Larry wrestling Marissa was pretty awesome.
Hilarious.
And so I saw her in the background. Now, the other thing is, and this is L.A., so Larry is miffed at who he wants to play opposite him and the producers. He's like this, that, and...
Wait, you mean in the show?
In the show.
Yeah, okay.
He wants to know, and he names famous people's names. The night before, I'm at the Egyptian Theater in Hollywood seeing some old movie, and Ben's there with Christine. And I say to Ben goes, the show's great. Then I go, would you ever want to do it? Because I know he's a great improviser. Would you ever want to be on the show? He goes, I'd love to be on the show. So the next day I go into work and I go, Larry, Ben Stiller, you think he'd do it? Oh, I know he'd do it.
Yeah.
And the rest
and it was
is...
great. It was great casting.
Right.
So Larry tells him that he was offered Max, and Ben is nonplussed.
It was a little shocking to me, too.
You actually offered?
Yeah.
Really?
Offered in the... I know.
That is
Crazy. Are you guys just going crazy? Because it took him a long time to make this decision.
Well, yeah, we wanted to be on
Can I ask you something? You act? No, I know you're...
No, I don't.
Yeah. And you sing.
I don't do anything,
Right.
really. I
Really?
mean, they'll have to teach me.
Right.
He saw me in a karaoke bar.
Wow.
You're fucking with me, right?
No, it's true, but I'm still thinking about it. I haven't made up my mind.
Yeah. Well, you should think about it.
And he's like, well, you can act, you could sing. He said, and then it took Ben a long time to make up his mind. And Larry just decided immediately, already they're getting off to the wrong foot. And then Ben sneezes into his hand. And then they part because the show's going to start. And Larry pats him on the back. He won't shake his hand, which I think is completely reasonable.
Well, by the way, I had the reverse happen, so I know it's reasonable.
Meaning what?
One of James's friends, when he was very little, mother I loved, father not so crazy. We went over to their house, shook my hand, and the reason Larry didn't shake is what happened to me. Handful of snot. And I
that's
talking
horrible.
about, I know a lot. And I was like, how could he do that to me? How could he do that?
Disgusting.
So anyhow, when you say reasonable, I know reasonable.
More than reasonable.
And I'm sorry to even tell that
But
story.
Cheryl
It's
says,
really-
what's wrong with you? You didn't shake his hand. And then we see they're watching the producers. And it's Louis J. Stadlin is playing Max. Now, let me tell you about Louis and me. Louis and I go way back. Louis's father, who was a voiceover aficionado. He did, when we were kids, he did all the cartoons. He was Odie Collodi. He did Underdog. He was Simon Bell Sinister. He was a major voiceover guy. Did a million commercials. His father, Ira Stadlin, was my mother's boyfriend in high school. Louis J. Stadlin's father. And they stayed friends. So he was like an uncle to me. And he always took me under his wing and was amazing to me. So I've known Louis my whole life. And there was Louis playing Max Bialystock in the LA version of The Producers. And Don Stevenson was playing Leo. And then Larry's getting really tired. He took the painkiller and he's getting really tired and he yawns. And Cheryl whispers to him, this whole part, they're having a whole conversation in the middle of the show, which was weird to me.
But by the way,
whatever.
I think, hold on though, that happens in every show, no matter how well written, no matter how poorly written, no matter how serious, not serious, people talk in the theater, in television and movies.
And I have fights with my husband if he starts talking.
I sit in the last row generally in movies because
For that
I don't
reason,
want to hear anyone behind me.
I agree.
And
I also don't like to feel anyone behind me. Not just here. I don't like anybody behind me. I always sit in the last row. See, you and I are oddly compatible, Jeffrey.
Well, we said this before, we're as close as can be, and we love each other, which is so the opposite of what people think. But I wanted to say something. I went look at my notes.
They're talking in the movie, in the theater.
Movie theater. Okay, yes.
Not movie theater, but theater, Broadway theater, live theater. And Cheryl says, how about our 10th anniversary present? And Larry's like, it's fine if you want to get out of it. And she's like, I don't want to get out of it, but there are ground rules. It's one time only, and the deadline is our anniversary at midnight. Mm-hmm. And Larry tells her that if he decides to do The Producers, opening night is their anniversary. And he says, maybe I'll do the show.
Well, by the way, he says that after he sees Katie Huffman. As
Katie
what's the
Huffman, who plays, she plays the Swedish secretary. I forgot her name.
Yeah, she's a tall drink of water.
Yeah, tall
Katie
drink
Huffman.
of water, tall drink of sexy water. And he sees Katie Huffman. He's like, maybe I'll do the show. Thinking maybe she'll be my anniversary present.
Right.
And then he falls asleep and he drools on Philip Baker Hall's head.
And he looks up, and we shot it to where Larry is over the edge. So Philip Baker Hall
like Larry's on the mezzanine.
Right.
And Philip Baker Hall is in the orchestra.
I have a memory of shooting that. We shot it. We're moving to the next location. We're a bit away from this theater, which was a downtown theater. And Larry realized he didn't have the bandage on the whole scene, the whole thing. We had to go back and reshoot everything.
Oh, I didn't know
from
that.
the get-go. So it took us another, to set up was an hour, 2 hours it cost
By
us.
the way, there are two people whose responsibility that is. One is the makeup person who's putting that on him.
Right.
And the other is the script person who takes
script
care of the
supervisor,
continuity.
Which, by the way, I believe she was a substitute because we've had a couple genius ones. Like,
terrific.
I don't know how they pull it off. Like, I go, wow.
Well, especially for our show.
Right.
Yeah, let's just tell the audience what they do because some people don't know. Script supervisor generally takes care of continuity. Like exactly what you just said was my leg on the right side. So we're shooting a scene and I might be like this And then the next scene, I don't remember that I was like this and I'm like this, and it's not going to match when we start cutting. So that's their job is to make sure that, among other things, they have a very difficult job, and they have to be incredibly focused and concentrated on every take. But it's a hard job, and we have had some wonderful people. That day, you said we had a substitute. And,
I believe.
And we know that makeup
or someone who
was
they actually, I believe,
anyway.
got fired in the next week or two, because that's about as bad a mistake, because that cost a lot of money.
And we know all about makeup at that time.
But I also want to say this, and this is something that I believe. Francis Ford Coppola said this. Coppola. Continuity is for pussies.
Yes,
and
I agree.
Completely agree, because if you're people notice a microphone, but I mean, a boom, but it goes out of the way. You don't want that, because that takes you out of the scene.
Or the not having the bandage. That's egregious.
Very egregious.
Yes, that's an egregious thing.
It's all based on, but I'm talking about physical things, a cameraman.
Yeah, when I sent
Sandra out, I don't know if I told the story, I said, Larry, we're about to shoot. Larry needs his makeup done, and we're in the middle of the scene. And she walks out in the middle of the scene and starts poking on Larry. And the look on Larry's face, and everyone knew it had to be me.
Yeah.
But by the way, continuity is for pussies, because in the scene, finger this side, finger that side, doesn't matter if they're engrossed in the thing.
Right.
So unless it's
something that's egregious, because that can be distracting and take you out of the scene. And
Without
that has happened to me in movies where I notice something and I'm just like, it takes me out of the scene because
Completely
it's too startling and jarring. But a leg crossed the wrong way, I could care less about that.
Facing, the way you hold your elbow.
But there's also... The other thing is also eye line, which is a major and very important, by the way. Eye line's very important, because if like a lot of times we'll do a scene. I'm just explaining this for the audience, not for you. We'll do a scene where I'm looking at you, but instead of looking at you when we're shooting the scene, I have to look to the left of you or to the right of you or whatever, so that the eye line for the camera is correct. And that's important to me, because when I see eye lines off, it throws me.
And by the way, every day of shooting, we have that where you're talking to me, but the camera's right next to me and you have to look at the camera.
That's right.
So
it's
that
odd.
way it makes sense on the thing. But that's the DP's job, that's the script supervisor's job, and the director's, the three of them.
Right. But
And
that's the magic of film, is that
I know.
it all
Are they
cuts
crossing
together.
the line? Did they cross the line?
So we will see you next time for season 4, episode 2, which is a very funny episode, and we'll be back.
Yes.
Bye.